Welcome to Module 2. In this module, we are going to be covering the number one thing that I get asked, and that is how to calculate your macros. Before we get started, I just wanted to note something for you guys. We will be calculating your macros, but just understand that you do not have to get down to the nth degree with hitting your macros daily and calculating your macros. Our bodies fluctuate every day. And some days we're going to eat a little bit more. Some days we're going to feel like eating a little bit less. Some days we're going to have a higher activity level, and some days we're not. So this will all even out. And as long as you're staying within the general range of your macros, you're going to be good. With the caveat of you definitely don't want to exceed your carb limit. So we will get more into that in a minute here. But I just wanted to touch base on a few things before we get into the calculator. So if you remember back to Module 1, these are the recommended ratios of macronutrients that you need to hit to get into and maintain ketosis. So you're going to be getting 5% of your calories from carbohydrates, you're going to be getting 70% of your calories from fats, and you're going to be getting 25% of your calories from protein. You definitely do not want to exceed your protein intake. You don't want to be going too high because if you remember back when I spoke about this in Module 1, if you're eating a ton of protein, that could convert to glucose and you could be storing it as fat. So just a note on that. And then you also want to remember that you're going to be counting net carbs versus total carbs. And if you forget what that means, that's just simply the total amount of carbohydrates you consume in a day minus the total amount of fiber you consume in a day. And that will equal your net carbs. All right, so just a few more notes about macros, and then I promise we're going to get into the fun stuff. So with your protein, you want to make sure that you're hitting your minimum. And how we're going to calculate, I'm guessing most of you here are here to lose weight, and you're not quite in the arena of body recomposition yet. So we're going to be calculating these macros for weight loss. And we're going to be calculating 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. So this is important to keep in mind when you're eating, because you don't want to you don't want to have not enough protein in your diet and then lose lean body mass that you already have on your body. You want lean body mass because it speeds up your metabolism and it helps you look good in your clothes. It helps you feel good. And it's also important because if you're not eating enough protein, you're going to feel hungry and then you're going to want to reach for the carbs. So just as a side note here, make sure that you're hitting your minimums with your protein. As far as fat, I want to know, do not fear fat. I know there's been diets touted for, I don't even know now, decades, stating that fat makes you fat or that it's not healthy for you, but that is not true. And there have been so many studies disproving this theory. So do not be afraid of eating healthy fats. Now, you definitely want to steer away from trans fats where like the fats are coming from highly processed foods. But if your fats are coming from healthy oils and avocados, nuts, different things like that, you definitely don't want to be fearing fat. And then you also do not have to eat every gram of fat. So say towards the end of the day, you're feeling pretty full, but you haven't hit your fat macro, don't worry about it. You don't have to eat them. You just want to make sure you're eating enough fat to the point that you're feeling satiated and you're not reaching for the carbohydrates. As far as carbohydrates, most of us are going to be starting out with this 20 net grams. Unless you have a highly active job where you're an endurance athlete or you're, just incredibly physically active every day, you're going to want to start with the 20 net carbs. Otherwise, you're going to struggle to get into ketosis. I want to express the importance of eating real food on this diet. Now, I know you can get into ketosis by eating dirty keto, where you're eating different foods, pork rinds, and different things that are sugar free that don't have a carb count, but you're doing your body a disservice because you're not getting all of the nutrients that your body needs to be healthy. So the keto diet it's so easy to hit all of your nutrients in a day when you're eating real food. And in the tracking program that I use, I'm going to show you where you can see all this information, and you're going to want to eat the real food once you see how you can track it. And finally, don't forget your electrolytes. We talked about this in Module 1, so if you can't remember everything about electrolytes, go back and watch that video. But you want to hit your electrolytes because your body is changing and adapting to ketosis, and you're not going to feel very good unless you're consuming your electrolytes. And we can also track these in the program that I use, so keep that in mind. All right, and just a few things that you're going to want to note before we get started with the calculator, and most of this you probably know off the top of your head, but your age, your height, your weight, your body fat percentage, but that's not 100% necessary to calculate your macros. And like I said before, at this point, we can take a best guess. It's the last 5 to 10 pounds is where we need to really dial things in. So at the beginning here, your body fat percentage can be more of a measurement. And the tool that I use, the calculator that I use, can help you figure that out. And then finally, your current activity level. And I am going to note here, most of you guys you're gonna want to put it in a sedentary because we tend to overestimate our activity level, and that's going to do us a disservice when we're actually eating too much food and not moving our bodies enough. But we'll cover that more once we get the calculator open. And as always, do not hesitate to reach out to me or leave a question in the Facebook group. I know that this can feel overwhelming or confusing, and I do not want to leave anybody behind. So do not hesitate to ask a question, and I will see you in the next video.